right, let's dive into the energy of opening week in the NBA, because the wait is finally over. The league is officially back, and with it comes all the chaos, excitement, overreactions, and hope that only the first few games could deliver. It's NBA Eve, and whether or not you're lighting a candle in honor of the season or just refreshing your fantasy app for the 5th time today, the point is simple. Basketball is back, baby. And for fans of the Celtics, there's even more reason to be fired up. Let's get this out of the way first. Yes, we've got a loaded schedule right out the gate. The Thunder and Rockets are set to tip things off. KD returns to Oklahoma City to receive a ring, which, let's be honest, is one of those weird moments the league loves. And then we've got the Warriors and Lakers squaring up in the nightcap, because of course we do. That's the Silver Special. But for Celtics fans, all eyes are already locked in on Game 1. Boston versus Philly. Now here's the thing. There's been a lot of noise heading into this one, especially with injuries and roster updates flying around. First off, it's confirmed. Paul George won't suit up for the Sixers. That's already a big blow to a team that was depending on his presence to solidify their wing defense and scoring. On the other hand, we did see Joel Embiid get some solid minutes in the last preseason outing, which means it's safe to assume he'll be a full go on opening night. And man, Embiid looked like he had something to prove. In limited minutes, he put up 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and a few steals. But what stood out more than the stat line was his post-game energy. He looked pissed. He's coming into this season with that "don't forget who I am" attitude, even referencing how some people don't even rank him in the top 100 anymore. Now let's be clear. No one's out here pretending Embiid's not an elite talent. The issue has never been his skill, it's availability. That's the bottom line. When he's on the court, he's a monster. The problem is he's often not. So when you hear folks bump him down their rankings, it's not hate. It's frustration. It's disappointment. It's the basketball gods playing a cruel joke on one of the most dominant forces in the league. But all that said, he's suiting up for Game 1. And that means the Celtics front court has their hands full from the jump. And speaking of the Celtics, there's a lot to unpack about this team heading into the first 10 games of the season. But before we go there, let's touch on a bit of unexpected drama that's been swirling lately. If you've been anywhere near Celtics Twitter or tuned into any Celtics media over the last few weeks, then you already know about the now infamous media versus coaching staff basketball game. Joe MAZZULLA and his staff put a beat down on the media crew, something like 57-4. It was brutal, but instead of just taking it as a fun, quirky preseason bonding moment, it turned into this weird hot take war. One piece in particular tried to frame the whole thing as bullying, like the coaching staff intentionally embarrassed the media to flex some power dynamic. And look, that's just wild. It's a stretch. It's not that deep. From what we've seen, everyone involved in that game has had fun with it. They made content off it. Some got TV spots, others made YouTube clips go viral, and everyone got something out of it. It was a rare crossover between media and team that felt more unifying than divisive. If anything, it made the Celtics staff feel more human. But for someone to come out and say this was an act of aggression or humiliation, come on, man. That just reeks of a personal bias against MAZZULLA disguised as concern. Look, it's perfectly fair to have questions about MAZZULLA as a coach. Maybe you don't like his substitutions. Maybe you're skeptical about his leadership style. But to try and flip a preseason pickup game into some moral grandstand? That's weak. That's not it. Especially when the people who are victims in this so-called bullying event are the ones out here laughing about it and using it to boost their own platforms. It's one of those moments where you just want to pull everyone aside and say, can we just relax for a second? Can we remember it's basketball? But all right, that's enough about that. Let's get back to what really matters, the start of the season. The Celtics open the year against Philly, and the early Vegas line has Boston favored by 2.5 points. That alone tells us a lot. First, it probably means Jaylen Brown is good to go. He tweaked his hamstring in the final preseason game and has been labeled day-to-day since. But the way the line is moving, that's Vegas saying JB's suiting up. And that's big, because if Brown's in the lineup, we're likely to see a starting 5 of Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Chris Boucher, who, by the way, people forget how productive he can be, and then Nemias Quetta at the 5. That last spot is going to be a trial by fire, no question about it. Quetta gets to go toe-to-toe with Embiid on night 1. That's one hell of a welcome to the season. If Quetta can even stay on the floor, avoid early foul trouble, and slow Embiid just enough, that's a massive win. If not, well, we might be looking at 35 minutes of Luka Garza trying to hold down the paint, and I don't think anyone's ready for that. The Celtics bench is still figuring itself out, but it looks like Simons and Hauser will be the first two off the bench, with Xavier Tillman or Garza filling in that backup big role, depending on matchups. And then you've got wild cards like Josh Minott and Jordan Walsh, who could carve out more minutes depending on health and hustle. The rotation might be 8 or 9 guys deep to start, but expect it to be fluid. There are going to be nights when matchups dictate a lot. On the Sixers side, with Paul George out, they're scrambling a bit on the wing. No Jared McCain either, so the expectation is they'll lean heavy on young guys like VJ Edgecombe and Quinn Grimes. Tyrese Maxey obviously leads the backcourt, and we'll probably see Kelly Oubre Jr. slide into a bigger role alongside Bona and Embiid. The bench rotation is going to be interesting. Guys like Jabari Walker, Justin Edwards, and even Andre Drummond could get decent run, depending on how tight the game stays. But let's be real. This game comes down to two things: how well the Celtics can defend the paint without elite size, and whether or not they can push the pace and turn it into a track meet. Because that's going to be their identity this year. This team is built to run. It's built to create chaos. And if they can keep teams on their heels with speed, ball movement, and perimeter shooting, they're going to catch a lot of opponents off guard, especially early in the season before teams have adjusted to their style. This is why these first 10 games matter so much. The Celtics don't have the margin for error they had last year. There's no longer a safety net of depth that lets you survive if Jaylen Brown or Derek White misses a few games. This year, everyone's got to stay locked in and, more importantly, stay healthy. If even one of those core guys goes down for an extended stretch, things could unravel fast. It's not panic mode, but it's definitely tightrope walking. Let's keep rolling, because the first 10 games of the Celtics season are going to be a major indicator of how serious this team really is. We're not talking about playoff positioning yet or making bold predictions about banner number 18. But these early weeks, they'll set the tone. And for a squad that's entering the season with more questions than usual, these games are going to matter a lot more than people think. Not just in the standings, but in terms of confidence, chemistry, and whether the roster decisions made this offseason were the right ones. After opening night against Philly, Boston hits the road to face the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. That's always a wild atmosphere, no matter what time of the year it is. The Knicks are physical, they play with energy, and their crowd treats every home game like it's Game 7 of the finals. I actually think New York gets the edge in that one. It's early in the season. Boston might still be ironing out some of the rotation wrinkles, and that building can rattle teams if they're not locked in from the jump. So let's call it one win, one loss through the first two. Then it's a quick turnaround with a road back-to-back. First, a trip to Detroit to face a young Pistons squad that, on paper, still looks like they're rebuilding, but you never know this early in the season. That could be their home opener, and if it is, that building is going to be hyped. Still, Boston should have the upper hand here. Talent-wise, experience-wise, this is a game the Celtics should take. Let's say they get it done and move to 2-1. Then the following night, it's New Orleans. And look, we can joke about the Pelicans all we want, but when they're healthy, and that's the key part, they've got weapons. Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, all those guys are capable of dropping 20 on you without warning. And if you're playing your second road game in 2 nights, and that front court depth is already being tested, this could be a problem. I think this one gets away from Boston, so we're back at 2-2 after 4 games. Nothing to panic over. It's a manageable start, especially considering the travel. Next up, they're back home to host the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is where things start to get interesting. Depending on how healthy Darius Garland is, and he was just returning to practice, this might be a version of the Cavs that's not yet at full strength. That could be a real opportunity for Boston to take control and snag a quality home win. But again, this is going to be one of those matchups that test the Celtics' depth because Cleveland has size, they've got shooting, and they've got continuity. I think this one is going to come down to whether Boston can hit their outside shots. If they do, they win. If they don't, it gets tricky. Let's say they drop it. Now we're looking at 2 wins and 3 losses. And that brings us to the first in-season tournament game. The NBA's version of the Emirates Cup, if you will, on the road against Philly again. This one will have a bit more juice, especially because it's part of the tournament format. And even if people are skeptical about it, players care more than they admit. Add in the revenge angle from opening night, and this is going to be a statement game. If the Celtics want to flex some early season strength, this is the one to do it. I think they come out sharp and get the W. That puts them at 3-3. The schedule doesn't let up, though. After Philly, it's back home to host the Houston Rockets, and this game might scare me more than any other in the first 10. People are sleeping on Houston. That team is loaded with young talent, and now they've added veterans who can stabilize things. Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and a new coaching staff have brought structure to a team that used to play like they were running YMCA pickup. Add in Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, and Jabari Smith Jr., and suddenly you've got a squad that can defend, shoot, and move the ball. This is a tough matchup, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston steals one in Boston. Let's call it a loss, 3-4. Then, thankfully, the schedule gives the Celtics a couple of winnable games to get back on track. First, a home game against the Utah Jazz. Another young, intriguing team, but one Boston should be able to handle, especially on their own court. If the Celtics lock in defensively and keep the tempo high, this is a game they should win. That puts them at 4-4. Next up, the Washington Wizards. Honestly, this has to be a win. Washington is still figuring out what kind of team they want to be, and unless Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole both go nuclear, the Celtics should cruise. That's 5-4 through 9. And then Game 10, another in-season tournament game against the Orlando Magic. This one's interesting. Orlando has quietly become one of the most intriguing young teams in the East. Paolo Banchero looks ready to take another leap. Franz Wagner is a stud. Jalen Suggs is finally healthy. They got defense, size, and a bit of edge. And on any given night, they can run with anyone. Still, I think Boston find a way. Let's say they finish the 10-game stretch at 6-4. Nothing spectacular, but very solid considering the challenges early on. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. The air around TD Garden has been buzzing with whispers all week, and now, it seems, the rumors might be rooted in reality. Celtics head coach Joe MAZZULLA reportedly dropped the hammer in a shocking revelation that has left fans, analysts, and even some players stunned. This player is out of the Celtics, the coach allegedly declared, sparking a firestorm of speculation across social media and sports talk shows. Details remain murky, but sources close to the team suggest that the decision is final. While MAZZULLA has not publicly named the player, insiders hint that the move is part of a larger strategic shakeup aimed at reshaping the roster before the trade deadline. Celtics fans are desperate to connect the dots, scanning rosters and recent performances for clues. Could it be a veteran struggling with injuries or a high-profile talent underperforming under MAZZULLA's system? Every hint, every subtle interaction in post-game interviews is now being dissected for answers. Adding fuel to the fire, league insiders claim that talks with potential trade partners have already begun behind closed doors. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the rumor mill suggests that the Celtics are eyeing a significant swap, potentially altering the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. Social media has exploded with speculation, from loyal fans defending the player to analysts predicting which franchise might swoop in for the unexpected acquisition. The buzz is palpable, as whispers of locker room tensions, contract clauses, and even future draft picks swirl around the rumor. MAZZULLA's tenure with the Celtics has been defined by bold decisions, and if this move is confirmed, it would mark another high-stakes gamble for a coach determined to leave his mark on a storied franchise. One thing is clear: Boston is bracing for a potential shakeup, and the basketball world is watching every move. As insiders continue to drop hints and social media debates rage, Celtics fans are left on edge, anxiously awaiting the day the truth comes out. Could this be the start of a new era in Boston, or a dramatic misstep in a high-pressure season? Only time will tell. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.